Because this is the Vanguard and Cenk Uygur's trending on Twitter right now, I wanted to get your response to one of his statements that a lot of people are reacting to. He says, right wing doesn't love Putin just because he is an authoritarian, tyrannical leader. They love him because he's a white authoritarian leader. Race has become more important than even nationality. They've turned on democracy and now even America in favor of a white warlord. So, as per usual, pretty unhinged stuff from Mr. Cenk Uygur, but just particularly dumbfounding this morning. What's your reaction to this, Glenn?
I mean, Cenk, I think sometimes we avoid talking about the importance of stupidity in our discourse because it seems so like harsh and rude to describe somebody else as being intellectually stunted, but sometimes it's like unavoidable. Like there's not you can't even, it's not even like it doesn't even rise to the minimal level of intellectual cogency to be able to dissect or analyze, in part because no one died. Nobody is defending the Russian invasion of Ukraine or defending Putin in any way, or attempting to bring some geopolitical reality to the situation about what it is that we might have done to contribute to it or made it worse and what we can do now to try and avoid escalation. But nobody is applauding Vladimir Putin or cheering Vladimir Putin. Even Trump, commented and said, I think it was shrewd how he, didn't go the full invasion before he did and only acknowledged the independence of these two. Like, he praised the savviness of it, but he also was quick to add, had I been president, I never would have allowed this. This never would have happened. It's very sad that Biden allowed it. So even Trump, the kind of only example you could find to claim of somebody who actually admires or defends Putin in this case, was saying what Putin did was bad and I would not have allowed it. But to impose this racial framework on it, I honestly, Gavin, like, it's very hard to even analyze. What do you say about that? Talking about extremely weighty and consequential geopolitical conflicts. I don't know, like the leading traitor at the moment, the person being most demonized and villainized supposedly for being on Russia's side, is Tulsi Gabbard. I think it's very hard to accuse Tulsi Gabbard, whatever else you want to say about her, of being devoted to like white nationalism and the elevation of the white race. It's
particularly
like
when the Nazis are on the Ukraine.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I forgot to even include that the country that they actually want to help is a country where there really are Nazis, as we discussed earlier. But this is what happens is there's just like these reflexive rhetorical tactics now in Democratic Party politics. You guys, I think I'm like 6 or 7 years older than you guys, maybe 4 or 5. So you probably don't remember living through 9/11, but I do. Like at the time, it's amazing how identical the climate is. It was, and it's not a coincidence that the people who created that climate back then, like David Frum and Nicole Wallace and Matthew Dowd and Liz and Dick Cheney, are the same ones who have created it now. They just have liberals and even the left on their side. Remember that the framework that George Bush created was that binary framework, which is you're either with us or you're with the terrorists. And we now have that, and we've had that as the primary framework for Democratic Party politics. You're either with us being Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, or you're with the Kremlin. And the other reflexive tactic is just to accuse everybody who in any way disagrees with you of being devoted to white nationalism or being a racist. And Cenk, usually the more clever wielders of these rhetorical tactics make it more subtle, but Cenk, being stupid, has no capability to do that. He just kind of does it in the most like grunting, blunt, primitive way. And so you see it for what it really is.
Yeah, it's almost alarming to see somebody that proclaims themselves to be a voice leader of progressive politics wielding this really just disgusting tactic against anybody who is opposing what could lead to, as we talked about in no uncertain terms, a massive nuclear international conflict, right? So if anybody who is saying, okay, let's be diplomatic about this, right? Let's not rush to bludgeoning Russia with sanctions. Let's not
kick them off the SWIFT system. Let's not blow up our entire global economy because of what's happening in Ukraine. Let's talk it out. Let's be rational human beings. Well, now that immediately is written off as, I'm a sympathizer for an autocrat. It's like one of the most fundamental elements of leftist politics is to try and absolutely at all costs avoid war. So just bold-faced hypocrisy. It never ceases to amaze me, though it should.
This was the defining tactics of the far right throughout the Cold War. It's like what Joseph McCarthy and J. Edgar Hoover and William Buckley built their whole careers on doing, was accusing everybody who disagreed with the Cold War or who accused the United States of engaging in imperialism and violence of being either secret agents of the Kremlin or harboring communist sympathies or being a useful idiot for Moscow. This language, these tactics come right out of far right politics throughout the entire second half of the 20th century, which is why I remember to this day that first Hillary Clinton campaign commercial about what's going on between Donald Trump and Russia and what do they, I reacted in this like instinctively repellent way because I, as a civil libertarian, was like one of the worst civil libertarian crises of the 20th century was the McCarthy era and everything the FBI did in the name of fighting communism. And so I just instinctively repelled from it and never understood why other people on the left didn't. The other aspect, by the way, of this whole left-wing politics, which Cenk is ignoring, is look at the messaging that is emanating about sacrifice, right? We know that for the last year, inflation has been radically increasing. People have suffered financially because of the COVID pandemic. There's all kinds of metrics about people's dissatisfaction and difficulty in getting healthcare and keeping jobs that provide benefits. And so now you just turn on, the television and all you hear are these very rich pundits like Cenk telling American workers, who progressives are supposed to be most concerned about, you're going to have to sacrifice even more than you've already been. You're going to have to pay more in energy prices, gas prices, groceries, more supply chain problems in order to defend American values or these vague, neocon concepts of defending freedom around the world. Really, is that actually what you want to tell the working class of the United States? It's already so deprived and put upon that it's time to sacrifice more. Cenk can easily endure, higher gas prices and food prices. He's not going to go on a diet. He's not going to drive less. His life is going to be exactly the same. The people who they're telling to sacrifice are people outside of their socioeconomic class, as usual. And that's another part of this whole framework that I find so alienating, is this like casual demand that people already suffering sacrifice even more in pursuit of some very ethereal and abstract goal.
Patting the pockets of Raytheon and fucking Lockheed Martin and everybody else who stands to benefit from this conflict and everybody else suffering.